Question number 2, David Bennett.
Mr Speaker, my question is to the Minister for Infrastructure. What progress is the government making on its infrastructure investment program?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, very good progress. The government laid out a program 2.5 years ago, and despite the fact of the recession and significant government deficits, we've actually held our capital spending and increased investment in infrastructure because we believe that in the long run investment in productive infrastructure will help our export sector to be more competitive and therefore help to rebalance this economy. And in addition to the spending, we have changed the rules around setting infrastructure.
David Bennett.
Supplementary question to the Minister. How has the government's infrastructure program supported jobs?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, one of the benefits of this long-term investment in infrastructure has happened to be that during the recession, when we were ramping up the program, the government's infrastructure spend directly supported thousands of jobs across New Zealand in the construction sector, which, as we know, was hit very hard both by the New Zealand recession and then by the effects of the global recession. A very significant proportion of all non-residential building in New Zealand has been funded over the last 2 or 3 years as part of the government infrastructure investment program.
David Bennett.
Supplementary question to the Minister. What are the government's infrastructure spending plans for the next 5 years?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, it's just more good news. We expect to invest heavily in what is now a clearly defined pipeline of work. So over the next 5 years we will invest $750 million in Kiwi Rail for new wagons, locomotives and other projects to increase productivity, $5.4 billion in new state highways, which will mean the start of construction of Waterview, 4 more sections of the Waikato Expressway and the Mackay's to Peka part of Highway 1. We'll be spending $3.9 billion upgrading the national electricity grid, $7 billion on state housing, schools, hospitals and the prison system, and also, of course, the investment of at least $1.5 billion in the rollout of ultra-fast broadband, where the final commercial arrangements have been put in place just in the last few weeks, and Parliament will pass the legislation hopefully in the next few weeks.
The Honourable John Boscawen.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Supplementary to the Minister. How does the government intend to attract private capital to boost New Zealand's infrastructure base?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, the government has taken a careful and considered approach to introducing public-private partnerships. Been one of the few developed countries in the world who have not had those in place in the last 10 years. We've learnt from others, and we're making cautious progress in that respect.
The Honourable John Boscawen.
Supplementary to the Minister. Would he describe the comments made by the Honourable Trevor Mallard regarding broadband infrastructure investment that, quote, anyone entering into an arrangement based on this legislation has got to know that it may not last, and end quote, as being wanton economic thuggery that would scare away private infrastructure investment and turn New Zealand into a banana republic? If not, how would he describe them?
Point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallard. Order. Point of order has been called.
Mr Speaker, while it's something that I might like to frame and send to my LEC, Mr Speaker, I think asking the Minister of Finance to have responsibility for my comments is going a little bit far.
Well, order, I don't need to hear further on the matter. The Minister certainly does not have responsibility for the Honourable Member's comments, but ministers can be asked their opinions on all sorts of things, and so long as the Minister is somewhat careful in answering it, I'm prepared to allow the question, but certainly the Minister has no responsibility for those comments. The Honourable point of order.
I don't think he'd finished there. It was such a good quote that I'd like to finish.
Order. Pardon me. Order. I think the member had finished. The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, I think it's more bark than bite, because no New Zealand government would act illegally, and they would, of course, comply with the contract. Secondly, they're reckless. And thirdly, I'm just going to work very hard over the next few months to make sure that the election of 2011 makes those comments irrelevant.
The Honourable David Cunliffe, supplementary
Mr Speaker,
question.
to the Minister of Finance, if his stated aim of infrastructure investment is to boost our economy through streamlining private sector exports, then why are poorly maintained rural roads being ripped up by milk tankers, while his Infrastructure Minister Stephen Joyce squanders $1.8 billion on the Holiday Highway, which has a benefit-cost ratio of just 80 cents in the dollar?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, I'm most impressed with this newfound sympathy of the Labour Party for the farming community. But they need to sort out their strategy, because last week they were kicking them in the slats and today they're trying to hug them. So, Mr Speaker, living on one of those poorly maintained rural roads, the government has done a very good job of working with local government to make sure the rural infrastructure can support the very successful export efforts of our rural sector.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
To the member for Clutha-Dipton.
Order.
Can he confirm that land transport funding will be reallocated later this year by the new government policy statement, with more money being taken out of road safety, maintenance and public transport, and funnelled instead into four new so-called roads of national significance, which will presumably have even worse benefit-cost ratios than Puhoi to Wellspit?
The Honourable Bill English.
No, Mr Speaker, I can't confirm that. I can confirm that the process of allocation is arm's length and very focused on productivity, so much so that the most recent tar sealing program in Dipton actually stops at the end of English Road, and we have the same gravel road that we've had for 100 years.
Point of order, the Honourable... Order. Member's colleague has called a point of order, the Honourable David Cunliffe.
Just asking if the Minister might repeat his answer, sir. It was very difficult to hear, and, I'm an English patient.
No, order. I think the member heard the answer perfectly well. Question number 3, the Honourable Annette King.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question to the Prime Minister